Hello everyone and welcome back to More Veggies Mom. Today we are going to be making a deep dish veggie pizza. We're going to start out by making a really simple crust. We are going to start with 3/4 cup of warm water. Now think baby bottle warm. You're going to test it on the inside of your wrist, and you don't want it to burn at all, but you do want it to be on the warmer side. So 3/4 cup warm water, 1 teaspoon of active dry yeast, 1 tablespoon of sugar. I'm using turbinado sugar or raw sugar because it hasn't lost any of the nutrients that granulated sugar has. So it's still sugar, it's still sweet, but it has something more to offer than just empty carbs. So we are going to stir those together. I'm just going to use a fork. And we're going to let that sit for 5 to 10 minutes to allow it to germinate, or, well, it's a fancy word for become bubbly and frothy and all that fun stuff. So we'll wait on that for a minute. And I have a small bowl here, and I have just added 1.5 cups of flour. Now I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And 1.5 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Actually, I'm going to stir in my salt just a little bit before I add that oil. Okay, I'll make a little well, so like a little hole in the middle of my flour here. I don't know if you guys can see. So I just put a little hole there. Then I'm going to put the oil and the water into. So my yeast has had some time to germinate. You can see that it's bubbly and kind of creamy looking. So now I'm going to go ahead and add this 1.5 tablespoons to my flour. Oop, and that's too much, so careful there. And then I will add in my yeast. And I have a rubber spatula here that I'm going to use to get the rest of this out. And I will stir it up the best as I can inside the bowl. And then when it all starts to come together really well, I will take it out and knead it. Okay, so you can see here that it is all starting to kind of stick together. I'm just going to scrape the edges really well. See, that didn't even take any time at all, did it? Just scrape the edges. I have some extra flour that I left out. I'm going to dust my surface here. It's probably a little bit more than I would recommend you do, but I can see that my dough is a little bit softer than I would want. It's kind of sticky. So put that down there. Trying to get this all off of my spatula. Come on. Okay. And you're just going to add flour as needed. So like I said, mine is still pretty sticky. So I'm going to put some flour on top. I'm just going to knead it. And what we're looking for is it to be not sticking to my hands like it is now, but we still want it to be soft dough. I may add up to 1/4 cup more. If you're in an area that is more moist than here in southern Idaho, where it's almost a desert, then you might have to do a lot more flour than I do. Pick up some of this flour here. Yeah, this is looking good. All right. So now I'm going to take my bowl, make sure that it really is scraped out well. Then I'm going to spray it with some cooking spray. Throw my dough in there, spray the top of it, and then cover it with plastic wrap and just let it rise on the counter for about 30 minutes. So while we wait for our dough to rise, we will go ahead and cut our vegetables and prepare everything else. I have one yellow pepper here, and I'm going to cut it into thin, short strips. Then I'm going to go ahead and put those into a steamer. You don't have to use a steamer, but I think it's the easiest way, and I will explain to you why in a moment. But you could also, if you don't have a steamer, just put it into a pot with about 1/2 inch of water. My daughter is singing for us. And bring that water to a boil, put your peppers in, cover it with a lid, and we're going to let it steam for 5 minutes. And we'll cut our broccoli. So here are my florets. You can see that they're all really small, and that's what you are going for. So I've made a mistake. The broccoli was supposed to go in first. This is not the first mistake. It will not be the last. So I'm going to have to take this out. It's been going for 5 minutes. I'll throw in my broccoli and go for 10. But if you do it the right way, you put your broccoli in, let it go for 5 minutes, add the peppers, let it continue on for another 5 minutes, and then they're both done at the same time. You throw in your tomatoes, which we're about to chop, and let's not get ahead of ourselves. So, I have 3 very large Roma tomatoes. Generally I use 4 regular size, but I'm going to small dice these. If you need instruction on how to cut any of the vegetables, please see my how-to videos. While I'm waiting for my broccoli to get up to speed, my dough is ready to be placed into our pan. So I have a 9-inch deep pie pan. I'm going to spray it with some cooking spray. And I'm going to take, and punch down is a cooking term that doesn't literally mean punch down, but I'm literally going to punch down my dough. Try to get out some of that air. I'll pull that out. Stretch it a bit. See, it's nice and soft so you can really work with it. We'll press this into our pan. Oh, and set your oven to 475 degrees. So just press that into the sides, up to the top of the pan there, into the corners. Okay. And if you see any noticeable air bubbles, you can go ahead and just pinch those or prick those with a fork to get rid of those. Here is the pizza dough all pressed into our pie pan. Alright, so my broccoli's finally done. Here's why I love to do this in a steamer, because it's one less dish really that I have to do, because you're going to want to put all of your vegetables into a strainer, and a steamer is like a strainer. So we do this because there's a lot of moisture, especially in the tomatoes, that is going to make your dough soggy. So we're going to try to get that excess out. So we add those all together into your strainer or your steamer. And now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, or you can do 1 tablespoon of fresh. No, I think I might add a little bit more here. I like oregano. Okay. And then some salt to taste. You can also add a little bit of pepper in there if you would like. And we're going to stir this inside the strainer to allow as much moisture to come out of it as possible. Okay. I think I've got as much out as I'm going to get. I'm going to load half of this mixture into my pie pan. Spread that out as evenly as I can. Now you're supposed to have about 8 ounces of cheese total. So we're going to put about 4 ounces of cheese over this layer. Then we'll put the rest of our vegetables on top and do another 4-ounce layer of cheese. So let's put that into our oven, and it should only take about 10 minutes. After 10 minutes in the oven, I removed my pizza, and this is what I had. It is really good. The kids really like the layers of cheese, which also, by the way, hold the vegetables together. It has a really simple crust. You don't have to make any sauce, and everything here is fresh. So it's definitely worth the time. It's so quick and easy. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for watching.